What's good? It's your boy Zachary Carroll, aka Pastor Z. Welcome to Apologetics Monday. One of my passions is defending the faith. 30 obvious Bible contradictions.
Example number 3, question: will those who worship God suffer? Again, you're going to see multiple verses on both sides arguing strongly.
I'm gonna go ahead and pause right here while I look this up. Psalm 91, look it up with me. Psalm 91, 5 through 10. Will not fear the terror of the night, the arrow that flies by day, the plague that stalks in the darkness, or the pestilence that ravages at noon. Though 1,000 fall at your side and 10,000 at your right side, the pestilence will not reach you. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High, your dwelling place, no harm will come to you. No plague will come near your tent. So, bro, first of all, reading this without even having studied it, I can tell it's talking about the Passover. Okay. It's talking about in Egypt, the last plague was God sent his hand into Egypt, a plague, the angel of death, to come and smite all the firstborn children. And those who sacrificed the lamb, the Passover lamb, and wiped it on the doorpost, that plague would pass them by and go after the wicked. Proverbs 12:21. No disaster overcomes the righteous, but the wicked are full of misery. It says no disaster overcomes the righteous. That doesn't mean that people who are righteous, which nobody is righteous, but people who follow Christ and are trying their best to be upright won't experience disaster. But there's a difference between experiencing disaster, and then it overcoming you, and then it changing you, then it molding you in a different way. When we give our faith and life to Christ, nothing can overcome us. Yeah, we may experience suffering. In fact, we will experience suffering, but that doesn't mean that it's who we are. It doesn't mean that it changes the gift that we have, which is ultimate salvation. He doesn't understand what those verses are saying. This is really a semantic, like a basic, what it says, without reading any context, without doing any really further research into what the Bible is actually saying. These seem like contradictions. And I guarantee you, he has 27 more of these, but I'm going to review them all. Maybe not in all in one video, though.
That no, God's worshippers won't suffer is Proverbs 12:21, which says, no harm will befall the righteous one, but the wicked will have their fill of calamity. But it seems the writer of 1 Peter didn't get that memo. Beloved ones, do not be surprised about the fiery trials that you are experiencing, as though something strange were happening to you. On the contrary, go on rejoicing over the extent to which you are sharers in the sufferings of the Christ, so that you may rejoice and be overjoyed also during the revelation of his glories.
So again, even in that, I don't know what translation he's using, but in Psalms, he says no disaster will befall, or no, I don't know what translation he's using. He probably don't know what translation he's using, but there's a difference between a disaster overcoming you and experiencing a trial, which involves some suffering. And obviously, we're going to suffer in the same way that Jesus suffered, because we follow him. We are followers of the way. We are disciples of Christ. We are in the world, but we're not of the world. And any believer will tell you after years of spiritual maturity, you really find yourself an outcast. It's not in America, the persecution is now nowhere near what they're going through in the East, but at the very least, you do feel separated from your friends, your close friends, because I mean, you just have different interests and things don't move you in the same way. Not to say that you should abandon your friends, but in some ways, if they are refusing to follow Christ, you have to, because you're just different. And that's a lot of suffering. Anyway.
So the Bible cannot agree on whether righteous people or worshippers of God suffer or not.
Incorrect.
Example number 4. Question: should people be punished for the sins of past generations? Yes, is the answer, according to Exodus 20 and verse 5. You must not bow down to them, nor be enticed to serve them. For I, Jehovah your God, am a God who requires exclusive devotion, bringing punishment for the error of fathers upon sons, upon the 3rd generation, and upon the 4th generation of those who hate me. So according to the Bible, or at least this part of the Bible, it would be normal for a son or grandson or great-grandson to be punished for something that their father, grandfather, or great-grandfather has done. That would be a reasonable way of doing things. Obviously, I don't agree. I think that's a terrible way of doing things. It's a deeply immoral thing to visit punishment on the current generation based on what the past generation has done. Imagine if our criminal justice system operated in that way and we started sending people to jail for stuff that their fathers or grandfathers.
So he's viewing punishment in a worldly sense, like putting them in jail and all these things. But the punishment that God was talking about is exile. Exile from the promised land and exile from his presence. So if the parents do something that gets them kicked out of the promised land, or kicked out or prevented from going into the promised land, that is a punishment that even their 4th and 5th generation is going to experience. What Adam and Eve did, the mother and father, the human mother and father of the whole race, they did things that got us kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and that made us worthy of wrath. And it's kind of like, it's not so much that we are completely separated from what our parents do. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. It's inevitable that we would be suffering from the things of what our ancestors did, because we can't escape from it. It's not necessarily that God is saying, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to punish you for what your family did. It's more like, you can't escape my punishment of your parents because they gave birth to you. It is what it is. It's almost like I could not be born not black because of my parents. So I'm not saying being black is a punishment, but I'm saying I can't escape the decisions of my parents. My parents are black and they decided to have a child, so therefore I am black, and there's absolutely nothing I could do about it. In the same way, if ancestors sinned against God and a child is born afterwards, that child is born into the wrath and punishment that God befalls the parents. It's not like God is saying, you know what, I'm not going to punish you, I'm going to punish your children instead of you. It's more of, I'm punishing you, and in your punishment, you decide to have kids. So in the midst of me punishing you, you have kids. So really the equivalence would be not that the government is going to go put the children in jail for what the parents did, but the government puts the parents in jail and they have children. And so the children are born in prison. And the difference is they have to stay. God's justice is greater than man's justice. So in man's justice system, yeah, we would have to leave, or the child would be set free, put in a foster care. But even that could be considered a punishment. Even that could be considered a punishment. The child didn't ask to be born to criminal parents. And so now the child has to be put in a system where he or she doesn't live in a home. So it's an inevitable punishment. And God does not want anybody to be punished. God doesn't want anybody to have to experience that. Thank you for watching this episode of Apologetics Monday. I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and leave me a comment of what you heard down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Again, comment what your thoughts were. If you disagree, if you agree, I love to dialogue with you down below. My name is Zachary Carroll, aka Pastor Z. Y'all be cool.